All right, let's talk about AI. But we're not going to talk about the code or the large language models. No, we're going to dig into something else. The surprising real-world consequences of this AI boom. We're going to look at the hardware, the infrastructure, and the raw materials that actually make it all possible.
So let's start with the big question here. What's the hidden physical cost of this AI revolution? Because, as it turns out, the biggest challenges for AI aren't happening in lines of code. They're happening in the ground, on our power grid, and inside the pipes. Okay, so where did this all start? Well, it really begins with one simple, absolutely undeniable fact. AI is incredibly, ridiculously power-hungry. We're talking about a level of electricity use that is completely rewriting the entire energy landscape as we know it.
Get this. By 2030, the data centers that power AI could be eating up a staggering 14% of all electricity in the United States. Now, to put that in perspective, that's up from just 5% today. This isn't just a small bump. It's a tectonic shift in who's using our energy.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. For the last few years, the whole AI race was about one thing: who could get their hands on the most powerful chips. But around late 2025, that completely changed. The real bottleneck for AI's growth wasn't silicon anymore, it was electricity.
So, you've got this insane runaway demand for power, right? Well, it is slammed headfirst into a giant brick wall, our aging, already overburdened power grid. And this collision, yeah, that's what we're calling the Great Power Crunch.
You know, when a new data center wants to get hooked up to the grid, they can't just flip a switch. Oh no, they have to get in line. And as you can see, that line, the connection queue, has a staggering 5 to 7 year wait time. I mean, think about that. The digital world moves in seconds, but the physical world of energy is moving in years, sometimes decades.
So what happens when you have a physical bottleneck this big? Well, you get a really fascinating and frankly surprising reaction in the financial markets. It's forged a whole new category of AI winners that have absolutely nothing to do with software.
Just take a look at this. In only the first 2 months of 2026, the energy sector of the S&P 500 just took off, surging 14%, blowing right past the rest of the market. And the wild thing is, this wasn't driven by high oil prices. No, this was driven by what the market is now calling the race to power for AI. It's the classic gold rush story, isn't it? The biggest fortunes weren't always made by the people digging for gold, but by the ones selling the picks and shovels. Well, today, those picks and shovels are things like GE's gas turbines, which are sold out for years, and Caterpillar's backup generators, which saw their stocks soar 32%. Even utility companies like Vistra are transforming from boring, defensive stocks into high-growth plays. And this has created some really distinct ways for investors to get in on the action. You've got a company like Constellation Energy. It offers stability. It's the biggest U.S. producer of carbon-free power, a predictable giant. But on the other hand, you've got a company like Vistra. It's more of a growth play, a bit more opportunistic, and that's partly thanks to a huge nuclear power deal it signed directly with Meta. So, if you're a tech giant and you're faced with a strained grid and delays that last for years, what do? Well, you make a really bold move. You basically decide to bypass the grid and bet big on the most reliable source of carbon-free energy we have, nuclear. And I mean, just look at this list. It is a who's who of big tech. Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they are all signing these massive, long-term deals to buy power directly from nuclear plants. They literally can't afford to wait for the grid to catch up, so they're going straight to the source to guarantee that 24/7 power their AI operations need. And their long-term bet is on this really cool emerging technology, small modular reactors, or SMRs. See, instead of building a massive traditional nuclear plant, the idea is to build these smaller, standardized reactors in a factory and then ship them wherever you need power, like, say, right next to a giant data center campus. It is a potential game changer.
Okay, but even if we solve the power problem with nuclear, there is another, even more fundamental physical challenge just lurking under the surface. It's the one material that connects literally everything: copper.
According to a huge study by S&P Global, the demand for copper is set to just explode. We're projected to go from 28 million metric tons a year now to 42 million by 2040. That's a 50% increase, and that is putting immense pressure on a supply chain that's already stretched incredibly thin.
So why is demand surging like this? Well, it's because it's coming from 4 different directions all at once. You've got your normal economic growth, construction, appliances. Then you pile on the massive energy transition to EVs and renewables.
Then you add the new explosion in AI and data centers. And on top of all of that, a global push for defense modernization. Each one of these is super copper intensive, and they're all happening at the exact same time.
So, when you add up all that demand and then you look at our current supply, well, we are heading for a cliff. The world is facing a potential 10 million metric ton shortfall of copper by 2040. Now, that's a gap so big, it could stall out both the energy transition and the AI revolution.
And the reason we can't just flip a switch for more copper is the timeline. From the moment a new deposit is discovered to the day it actually starts producing, the average time is 17 years. A huge chunk of that is just getting through the permits and review process. We need the copper now, but the supply response takes almost 2 decades.
Which leaves us with this one final, really provocative thought. Our digital age, this world of AI, is accelerating at an incredible pace. But its future is fundamentally tied to our physical world, to power plants, to transmission lines, and to mines. So the ultimate question really is, can our physical world actually keep up?